Now look, the symbol you see in the thumbnail is a Buddhist symbol of peace. It's one that's used on the Tokyo Revenger jackets, and you also see it on Neji's forehead in Naruto, and you also see it in the Fullbringer arc in Bleach. However, you probably are more familiar with this symbol due to the Nazis, because in 1940 Hitler was like hippity hoppity that symbols now are property, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it's being used properly within this context. So if you reported this video and or already went to the comments to insult me for it, just point to yourself right now and say, I'm an idiot. I don't know my history. Tokyo Revengers. Oh man, am I a happy human being at the time. A couple months ago, I had finally read Tokyo Revengers, and it had been one of the most requested manga for me to check out, and I absolutely fell in love with it, and it's one of my favorite manga of all time. I said it before, and I said it up until the anime came out, but I think it was a truly underappreciated series, and one of the greatest shonen that I have read. However, with that being said, it's been a couple months since I have talked about one of my favorite series, and I thought now would be an opportune time, as it seems a lot of people are starting to turn their eye towards it. Even Scamboli did a video on Tokyo Revengers, I think, yesterday. So without further ado, cue the intro. So first off, spoiler-ish warning, as I am going to be addressing some things within the manga of Tokyo Revengers that I do think, however, are essential to understanding the character I'm going to be talking about in this video. I want to talk about Takemichi, as I think Takemichi and understanding his character and his strengths is going to play a large part in how much you enjoy Tokyo Revengers. You see, usually my favorite characters are the badass type, the characters that seem calm, composed, good-looking, but then they have moments of anger where they snap and unleash all of it. Characters who come off as physically imposing and demanding once their presence is there. However, the interesting thing is Takemichi is one of my favorite characters, but he's the exact opposite of that. And I did a video on the appeal of the human character where I addressed characters like Guts and Batman. But when you think about those two characters, they are humanity at its peak. These are characters that have strength to make change. These are characters that are physically capable of imposing their will when needed. And while you see Takemichi doesn't have that at all. Look, for those that have read Tokyo Revengers and are fully caught up, they know what I'm talking about. Now, if you're reading Tokyo Revengers or watching it and you're still in the early-ish parts, let me just say this. Get used to Takemichi getting the snot kicked in, like, all the time. Or, well, almost all the time. Because, you see, even though Takemichi isn't capable of physically imposing his will, he does have perseverance. And that's what makes Takemichi special. That's why Mikey takes an interest in Takemichi. That's why Takemichi is one of my favorites. Because unlike the other characters I mentioned, he isn't physically capable of imposing his own will. He's weak. However, he understands that now he finally has a chance to fix his life, and the last thing he can do is quit. You see, a lot of the journeys we see with our characters, usually that do start off under this underdog trope, seem to quickly move out of it in the physical sense, because although there are other things that might make them an underdog within their series, if they even are an underdog, they quickly are capable of imposing their will physically. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's kind of to be expected of battle shonen. But with Takemichi's character, I think we see a much more feasible approach. As since he isn't capable of imposing his will physically, we have to see what makes him special. What allows him to hang out with these absolute brutes, these delinquents, and not absolutely get murdered within a gang fight. With people such as Draken and Mikey and all of the other people you'll see throughout Tokyo Revengers, what makes Takemichi stand out? And like I said before, it's his perseverance, and the perseverance that inspires others. Not all of us are Mikeys, not all of us are Drekens, whether that's due to the decisions we've made in our life or our own physical limitations. But that doesn't mean you don't matter or you aren't valuable. Something that I've learned playing sports throughout the years is what matters almost 10 times more than your own physical capabilities, it's your mentality, it's how you think, it's how you approach the game and how you approach those around you. What are you capable of doing to not only bring up yourself, but the rest of your team in order to succeed? And sometimes all that's needed is someone who's a vocal leader who never quits, and that's exactly what Takemichi is. You see, we need to remember the premise of Tokyo Revengers. Takemichi, this isn't the first time he's done through this. He's already lived life, and in his eyes, failed at it. He's someone who kind of just ended up in a position that seems boring. One where he's lost a lot of the relationships he could have had, and his one desire is to go back. That way he can have a happy life. That way he can no longer stay the way he feels. and that's pathetic. He wants an opportunity that almost no other human being gets, and that's a do-over. And once he gets that opportunity for the rest of Tokyo Revengers, trust me, he's not gonna waste it. He would much rather endure the pain of physical affliction, punches, bleeding, cuts, than experience the pain he knew before he got his chance to do things over. And that's loneliness. When you go through a period of suffering with other people, and you're able to endure and push through, you all become stronger. But Takemichi, with previous experience in his life, already understood that the suffering he went through was being alone, was not having anybody else there with him. And now that he has the chance to have people around him, he's going to push the same message he pushes on himself, to never give up, not only on the goal, but never give up on themselves. Takemichi is a much more realistic and I think feasible approach of the underdog character, because the reality of it is in real life, we aren't capable of physically imposing our will. Or well, we aren't always capable, more often than not, we aren't capable of physically imposing our will for things to go the way we want them to. And throughout Tokyo Revengers, as we see with Takemichi, as I think is the case in real life, since we aren't capable of making things always go the way we want to, we have to work around it and still make things work out in the end. Takemichi cannot afford to quit in Tokyo Revengers. But the thing is neither can we. And here's the big difference. Even though I think Takemichi is a much more feasible and realistic take on underdogs, the main difference between Takemichi and us is Takemichi got a second chance. You and I, we don't have that luxury. We don't have that leisure. We only got, and not to sound cliche, but we really only got one chance in this life. And that's truly the greatest message I learned from Takemichi. It's not only his perseverance and his ability to inspire others and remind others who they truly are when they fall down a dark path, but it's that Takemichi is now doing in this version of his life what he didn't do in his first try. He's able to go back and fix the past. But you see, fixing the past and getting a life that you want, getting the life that you want to be happy in, requires struggle, requires pain. It requires you to be brave when you physically think you aren't capable of being brave. It's standing up to obstacles that previously you would have been too scared to have approached in the first place. As I've been echoing throughout this entire video, and as I really stated in the beginning, is my favorite characters are characters that I strive to be, in a certain sense, in the positive senses. Characters like Broly, Guts, Sinbad, characters who are capable of standing out and imposing their will, for better or for worse. But the reason why I love Takemichi is, even though those other characters is who I strive to be in a sense, Takemichi on the other hand is who I am now. It's who we all are in different stages of our life. In life, we won't always be the strongest, we won't always be the fastest, the smartest, the most capable of being brave. But at the end of the day, what matters is if you're able to persevere regardless. And through that perseverance, you inspire those who are stronger, who are faster, and who are more brave. And through that kind of relationship building, it's able to rub off on each other. And you all go through the struggle that is life beautifully. And so throughout it all, throughout all of the different trials and different types of trials that Takemichi goes through, he endures and he overcomes without ever really having to be the stronger force within that dynamic. And that is why, for me, Takemichi is the greatest underdog character I've ever seen. Hopefully you did enjoy this video, and if you are new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the bell notifications. That way you notify whenever a new video pops up on some of your favorite anime, manga, or whatever content. As always, this has been The Masked Man. Hope everyone has a blessed rest of the day, and peace.